Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and today is the day after the launch of Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury on the Nintendo Switch, which has me thinking about all sorts of things, including the larger conversation about Wii U ports on the Switch. So at this point on my channel, I feel like I've discussed specifically Mario 3D World and the whole Bowser's Fury thing to death over the course of the past few weeks in the lead up to the release of the game, but as you could tell, I clearly have a couple of last final thoughts that I wanted to share about the game and its release and just kind of my overall opinions on it. But because it also has a lot to do with this larger issue, if you want to call it an issue, about how many Wii U ports have come to the Switch and the fact that some people like them and some people hate them, that's what I wanted to continue to dive into today, because it is an interesting scenario I think that we find ourselves in and that Nintendo and the Switch finds itself in with the release of all of these games. And for myself, as somebody who still owns and loves the Wii U, and I have almost every single one of these Wii U ports already on the Wii U, it just means that I have a very specific kind of focused opinion on what's happening here. Of course, before I continue to dive any deeper into this topic, I do want to remind you that I'm always trying to grow the channel here. I post and upload several videos every single week talking about all things about Nintendo, Metroid, and all things gaming. So as you watch this video, if you seem to like what I'm doing and what you hear, then hopefully you will consider subscribing to the channel to help me cross a couple milestones very soon. So what more do I even really need to say about Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury that I haven't already said? Well, to make a quick summary for anyone who maybe stumbles across my channel via this video, I am somebody who owns and enjoyed Mario 3D World on the Wii U. When it comes to the Switch release, I'm not too terribly interested in that game just because I've already played it, I've already given Nintendo my money for it. But Bowser's Fury does look very cool and very interesting, and I would love to play it. I've so far decided not to dive in and buy this game over this launch weekend because I don't really know that a 3 to 6 hour expansion justifies a $60 price for something else that I already still own and can play to this day. But that doesn't take away from how cool Bowser's Fury really looks. And I do think that eventually I may give in and end up buying it just because I want to try Bowser's Fury. Although for now, I'm choosing to hold off. I do want to add that it'll be really interesting over the course of this first couple of days after this game launches to see how people are reacting to Bowser's Fury and also to see how quickly people are going through it. In fact, I've already seen several tweets from people who I follow, some of whom I'm friends with, who've already posted that they've managed to complete the game in one sitting. Now, at 3 to 6 hours, I'm sure that most of us already expected that, but once you actually start see it happening, and you see these tweets and comments and posts out in the wild say, oh, I've already beaten Bowser's Fury, it's done, it took me one sitting, it really just kind of puts it all into perspective, and it suddenly becomes a reality. I will also say, though, I haven't seen anyone saying that the game is bad. It clearly seems to be a really cool, really fun addition to the game, which I do think is very great to see. And it's also worth noting that overall, this whole package of 3D World and Bowser's Fury is the first-party release on the Nintendo Switch in 2021. So at the very least, it is still exciting, and I can say this as somebody who isn't even buying this right away, it is still exciting to finally see and have some sort of first-party Nintendo content releasing on the Switch for the first time this year. But this naturally brings us to the next part of this conversation, and really what this whole video is supposed to be about, and it's just how many Wii U ports we've seen come over to the Switch in just this 3.5, almost 4 years since the console is launched. A couple of last-gen ports and remasters and stuff are certainly always cool and exciting, and there has been some other remasters and remakes of games that are older than the Wii U, such as Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition or Zelda Link's Awakening. And those, I think, are different scenarios and different situations than such a long laundry list of games that were last-gen, prior games from not that long ago, coming in to fill so much of the current library of the current new console, the Switch. By my tally, here is a list of the current biggest Wii U ports that we know already exist on the Nintendo Switch. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker, Hyrule Warriors, Pikmin 3, Pokken Tournament, Rayman Legends, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Definitive Edition, Bayonetta 1 and 2, and of course today's Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Man, that is a pretty hefty list of Wii U ports that currently exist on the Nintendo Switch. And it should also be noted that there's a good chance I might have even been forgetting or ignoring a couple out there that just didn't jump to mind, or in some way, shape, or form maybe I didn't know about. But that's the main big list of games that we already know exist that are Wii U ports. And so this whole thing, this whole conversation comes down to the fact that this has been pretty divisive ever since the Switch first launched. When first Mario Kart 8 Deluxe launched in April of 2017, just the following month after the launch of the Switch, the console. And ever since then, people had this conversation about just how much is it worth it to buy a game that just released on the last generation, that we just played in the last few years, and pay a brand new full-priced $60 for this game, even if it's compiling other content and DLC. Is it still worth it? And as we continue to see more and more ports from this prior generation come over to the Switch, it's become more and more divisive and more controversial for some people. Now, I feel like over the years, I've had to state my feeling on this so many times, but obviously in this conversation where this is the actual topic, I do need to state it again, and again for any newcomers here as well. I have always been kind of, I don't know, I've always found it to be a bit of a benign problem. I don't have a super strong opinion on the Wii U ports thing. I definitely can understand why somebody might love them and why somebody might hate them. I mean, at the end of the day, as much as I love the Wii U, I think we all know the console was a sales failure. It didn't really do that well. It didn't get itself into all that many homes. 14 million Wii U's were sold. I mean, that's just not a lot, unfortunately. And it does break my heart because I love the console. But because of that, the fantastic library of the Wii U didn't get a chance to get really played and appreciated by most people. And I think that so many of these games are so good that they do deserve to be played by a lot of people. So bringing them over to the really awesome and very mega popular Nintendo Switch makes sense because it gets these games into more people's hands. And it's good for those games, and it's good for people who never had a chance to play it because they didn't have a Wii U. Now, the other side of the argument, I also understand, because the more Wii U ports we see, the more time and space and inventory within the Switch's library is being taken up by old games and not new games. It's like, why wouldn't we see maybe a new Captain Toad, or a new Rayman, or a new Donkey Kong Country, or a new Mario Kart, or a new Mario game, you know, stuff like that. And granted, we did get Mario Odyssey. When it comes to Hyrule Warriors, we just got Age of Calamity, so that has happened a few times, but in other respects, that hasn't happened. I mean, Pikmin 3, like, why haven't we gotten the Pikmin 4 that they told us about 6 years ago? Instead, we just got a port of last generation's Pikmin 3. It's an amazing game, one of my favorite of all time, but maybe it would be more exciting if we saw them spending more time on new games instead of just bringing games that many of us played last generation. And so, either way, it's for those reasons that I've kind of just rested on not super caring about it, because there's plenty of other games on the Switch I have been able to regularly buy and enjoy, even though there's been some pretty long dry spells for sure. 2018 and 2020 come to mind for myself personally, where there weren't a lot of games for me to buy and enjoy, which is definitely a shame. But I'm also somebody that plays regularly on my PlayStation and Xbox consoles, so between all three, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, I've had plenty of games to play this generation, even with some of these Wii U ports releasing, and I have not purchased a single one except for Mario Kart when it was brand new. I'm still having plenty of other stuff to play, so this all kind of feeds into why I haven't been personally offended and losing my mind over the Wii U ports thing, even though I do wish we were getting new Pikmin games and new Donkey Kong games instead of these ports. I think that both the oldest and the newest Wii U ports really are in unique circumstances and can kind of tell us a lot about what's going on. I think that they shed a lot of light on what's happening here. When it comes to the oldest one, which is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, again, that launched right after the Switch launched, that's a situation of a game that kind of duped us. I can admit that maybe I feel a little bit duped with Mario Kart 8. I didn't pick it up right away, but when one of my good buddies picked up a Switch and picked up Mario Kart, I was like, well, I'm going to get it on the Switch too so him and I can play together, and we've had a lot of fun with it since, as well as with my fiance. But I also, of course, I still own it on the Wii U. I played it like crazy on the Wii U. And so when that game came out right at the beginning of the Switch, it didn't really let us know that we were seeing the beginning of what was going to be a long-running trend of Wii U ports. I mean, that just kind of seemed and felt like a one-off, some sort of big title to release at the beginning of the Switch when none of us really knew how big the Switch was going to be. I mean, you have to go back to January, February, March, April of 2017, even though many of us were excited about the Switch and we saw it as something that was going to be more successful than the Wii U, no one knew it was going to be as popular as it turned out to be. And while we love the success it's getting now, back then, when we weren't quite sure, it was kind of cool to see Nintendo bring a really popular Mario Kart game from the Wii U over to the Switch at the beginning to give us something else to play, even if it was a game we already had played. So, I admit that I was kind of, I was duped by that trap. I picked up Mario Kart 8. Since then, all these other games that kept coming out, even games I love like Hyrule Warriors and Donkey Kong Country, Rayman Legends, Bayonetta, Pikmin 3, these are games I freaking love on my Wii U. As they continue to come out, I was like, I don't really know why I would buy any of these, because I already own these games. I've played these games. They're not new to me. I don't care if you add Funky Kong or whatever you do to this game. It's not going to make me excited to play it. I personally feel like somebody who's already given Nintendo my time and my money to support these titles when almost no one else was. And so at that point, I don't feel the need or the pull to purchase these games to support them on the Switch just because so many other people feel the need to. And granted, a lot of them maybe didn't already play them because they didn't have a Wii U. But like I said, for me, I was supporting Nintendo during their darkest times. The Wii U as a console, all these phenomenal games that came out on that machine that I just loved to death. I was there right alongside another small group of Nintendo fans. There was only a couple of million of us, it seemed at the time, who were supporting Nintendo in every single game that released on the Wii U when so many other people had turned their backs on them. And so, when it comes to the Switch and everyone's jumping on board the hype train of the Switch, which is justified because I love the Switch, it's like, well, you guys can have fun playing your Captain Toads and your Hyrule Warriors and your Pikmins. I've already played most of these games. I still own them. Nintendo's got my money, so I'm just going to step out and wait for the new stuff. So that's some of what the oldest Wii U port tells us about the situation, but what about the newest Wii U port, which is Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury? Well, to me, this is an interesting case because this is the first, if not, I think probably the only, of all the Wii U ports that is actually coming with something significantly new that they built from the ground up to release alongside of the Switch port. It's part of the retail package. You buy Mario 3D World on the Switch, it's also coming with Bowser's Fury, which is a separate game. And I do think that that is freaking awesome and fantastic. As I said at the beginning here, it's something I very much want to play. But it finds itself in the weird situation of being so short that some people will find it worth it and other people won't find it worth it. And like I said, I'm somebody just kind of waiting a couple of weeks to see if it's something I actually want to buy. But I wonder if this could be the beginning of a trend where Nintendo sees that if they're going to continue to do any more of these ports, which to be fair, they're kind of honestly running out of games to do it with at this point anyway, but maybe they're realizing that they need to be offering something a little bit more than just ports of these past games, especially at full price. It doesn't feel great to know that Donkey Kong Country came out at $60 on the Switch when it launched at $50 on the Wii U. Again, at a time where I and so many other people already bought and played it. And that kind of trend has continued with a lot of these games, and so they decided to bring over Mario 3D World, which was guaranteed to be a huge success, and I know that this game is going to sell crazy, and they went out of their way to create something, and I do applaud them for it, especially because it looks cool. So I'm glad to see this, and I would love to see this be the beginning of a continuing trend, but beyond that, maybe I speak for a lot of you guys, and maybe I don't, but I will speak for myself and say that I personally want to see the new trend start to become more newer games. 2017 started off so fantastically with so many new entries in some of these great Nintendo franchises, a new Zelda and a new Mario in the same year, plus a new Xenoblade, a new Splatoon game, a Fire Emblem Warriors game, and then a new IP with ARMS. I mean, that was incredible. It didn't matter that they brought Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a last-gen port, in that same time period, because it was like, who cares? Mario Kart 8's a great game, but look at all these other amazing brand new games. But since then, I think it's fair to say that there's been a couple of significant dry spells, and we do get the occasional other new game, like getting a brand new Fire Emblem or a brand new Luigi's Mansion, both of which are great games. But when it comes to some of these other franchises, a new Metroid, a new Pikmin, a new F-Zero, a new Donkey Kong, so many other things, even some third-party stuff, we're definitely still waiting. Although, they did announce a new Metroid game, which is great, but what's going on with that, we still don't know. And so, I think to sum this whole thing up is, I just find it curious and hard to even know what I think is going to be happening in the future. I'm glad to see Mario 3D World come to the Switch. I mean, I'm not a hater. I'm not saying that people shouldn't play it. On almost every single one of my videos I've mentioned it's a good game, and people who haven't played it should be excited because they have a brand new Mario game they haven't played that is very good. And you also get Bowser's Fury alongside of it. How cool is that? I mean, that's been my messaging this whole time. But when you look at the overall situation with these Wii U ports on the Switch so many years into the console's life, I don't know, man. It's pretty interesting, and it's also fascinating to watch people fight from each sides of this battlefield. So at the end of the day, these are my thoughts. What do you guys think? How do you feel about what I laid out in my opinions, and what are your own thoughts and opinions on Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury and all of the Wii U ports we've seen come over to the Nintendo Switch? My guess is because most people didn't play these games on the Wii U that most people are going to say, hey, this is great, just bring these games over because I didn't play them. And you know, I mean, that's how it is, man. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel, and I think that's fine. So talk about it below. Once again, do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you like what you saw and heard here today. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.